Hey everybody, I hope you guys are having a great Christmas Eve with your families. And over the past mini-series, we talked about the gifts fit for a king. The first one was gold and it meant kingship on earth. The second one was frankincense and it meant deity. And the last one that we just talked about last week was myrrh and it means sacrifice. I don't know if you guys have traditions like my family does for Christmas Eve and for Christmas itself. But one of the things that we do is before Christmas and on Christmas we read the Nativity story, and this is the this book my mom had it for all of her life, and eventually she's planning on passing it down, and she just bought one for my brother just recently. But it's about baby Jesus, and for this book, just having it throughout my life, like being able to hear the story, being able to act out the nativity story with my family, with our manger set, has been powerful. And it showed for me that even though we were waiting for our gifts, we knew that there was an order to it, right? We knew what had to come first. We had to put Jesus first before we even open any gifts. So today, for this Christmas Eve service, I'm gonna read Baby Jesus by a Ladybird easy reading book, and hopefully you all will buy it. So here it is. Baby Jesus. Mary was kind and good. She lived in a small white house in Nazareth. The house had a flat roof. There were stone steps at the side of the house. Mary could climb the steps onto the roof. If Mary looked down from the roof, she would see the children playing. Mary loved children. One day, Mary was busy in her home. She sang as she worked. Then Mary sat down to rest. As she sat still, the room became very bright. Mary looked up and saw an angel. The angel said, "God is sending a baby son to you. You should call his name Jesus." You see, sometimes God, he comes to us in ways that we never expected, right? For Mary and for a lot of people in the Bible, they were doing things that were not seen by people. And that's a testament for us. Like when we allow ourselves just to be obedient to God, in the unseen moments, God is gonna make us seen, not for our glory, but for His glory. And like the things that we could do, even for my YouTube channel, just doing this has allowed me to do so much more. I was able to do sermons for my friend's church that I never thought was possible. But because I allow God to give me a camera, right? To give me reasonable things that I could use to start this YouTube channel, to start this journey. And that's what happened with Mary. She was obedient and she went to a place of solitude. And she was singing and working and probably worshiping God. And in that moment, God blessed her. When the angel had gone, Mary was very happy. She was so glad God was sending her baby Jesus. Mary had a cousin in the hill country of Judah. Her name was Elizabeth. "I must go see Elizabeth and let her know about my baby," thought Mary. So Mary went to see Elizabeth. One day, Joseph told Mary that they had to go to Bethlehem. Many other people were going too. Mary packed her clothes and food. She rode on a donkey and Joseph walked by her side. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's a good story right there. That artwork is good. The little donkey's feet went clip, clop along the road, up and down hills and around twisty bends. After a long time, Mary was tired. The donkey was tired too. Joseph was tired. They would be glad, of course. They would be glad when they got to Bethlehem. Whew. At last they were there. Mary knew her baby will be here soon. Will be born soon. She hoped they could find a place to rest. Joseph knocked at the door. Have you any room for us to stay? He asked. The man opened the door and shook his head. Sorry, no room here, he said. No one had a room to spare. Many people were staying in Bethlehem. Joseph knocked at the door of an inn. Have you any room for us? He asked Joseph. The innkeeper saw tired Mary on a donkey. I've no room here, but you can stay in the stable, he said. Joseph thanked them, and they went into the stable. The stable was clean and warm and quiet. Oxen were there, and they stared at the little donkey, eating his supper. Joseph made a soft bed of hay for Mary to lie on. He unpacked the food and clothes. That night, Mary's baby was born in the stable. She called his name Jesus. Mother Mary wrapped baby Jesus in a shawl. Then she laid him in the manger. The manger was the place where the hay was put for the animals. It was soft and warm for the baby. Mary smiled and was so happy. She said thank you to God for sending baby Jesus. There were green hills near Bethlehem. On the hills, shepherds looked after their sheep. When it was dark, they lit a big fire to keep themselves warm. The fire kept away wild animals from harming the sheep and lambs. The shepherds watched their sheep all day and all night. One night when they were watching, a big bright light shone in the sky. The shepherds were afraid at first. Then they heard angels singing. One angel told the shepherds not to be afraid. I have good news for you. Jesus is born in Bethlehem. You will find him lying in a manger, said the angel. After the singing angels had gone, the shepherds talked about the good news. Let us go to Bethlehem, they said, and see what has happened. They hurried down the hill as fast as they could. One shepherd stayed behind to mind the sheep and lambs. The shepherds came to Bethlehem and ran down the street to the inn. There was a light in the stable. This must be the place, said the first shepherd. He tapped on at the door, and peeped in. It was the place. The shepherds found Mary and Joseph. The baby Jesus was lying in the manger. Mary and Joseph smiled at the shepherds. They tiptoed near to see the baby Jesus. The shepherds told of the light and the angels. They told of the singing and of hearing the good news. Mary listened. The shepherds thanked God for sending baby Jesus. Then they said goodbye and tiptoed away. As soon as the shepherds were out of the stable, they talked about what they had seen. They told everyone about Mary and Joseph and about the baby Jesus in the stable. The people told others the good news. They were all glad. The shepherds sang for joy as they went back to their sheep. Sometime later, while Jesus was still only a baby, there lived wise men in a far-off eastern land. They watched the stars and talked about them. The wise men were looking for a new star. When God makes a new star to shine, it will mean that there is a new baby king, said the wise men. One night the wise men were watching the stars. There were many stars to see. The one wise man said, "Look, there is a new star." The other wise men looked up. "Yes," they said, "it is a new star. It is so bright. It must be the star of the baby king. Let us follow the new star and find the baby king," said one of the wise men. "Yes," said the others, "and we will take 3 presents with us." So they packed the best gifts they could find. They packed the best of what they have. Like, when was the last time we gave our best to God? That's something that is important for us. When was the last time that we gave our best to Jesus? And not our last, but the best, like the first of what we have, our 10%, our 20%, whatever that is to you. When was the last time we gave our best to God? When all was ready, they climbed on their camels and rode away. On and on went the camels. They came to a place where there was nothing but sand. It was hard to find the right way to go. The wise man stopped to rest. "We will wait for the bright star to shine," they said. That night they saw it. They were so glad. They followed where it lay. At last the wise man came to a palace in Jerusalem. "He must be here," said the wise man. And the reason they went there is because for us, when we see a king, we don't see a baby. We see somebody, or a king or a queen, we see somebody in like power. It's like, oh, they're gonna take over. But for Jesus, he entered the scene a little differently. They asked King Herod in the palace where the baby king was, but he did not know. The king asked his clever man, who said, "Our books say the baby king was born in Bethlehem." Joseph and Mary and baby Jesus now live in a little house in Bethlehem. The wise man had to find where he lived, and there the bright star was shining. When the wise man came to Bethlehem, it was shining right over the little house. So the wise men stopped their camels. They got off their camels. Then they took their 3 presents into the little house. There was Jesus on his mother's knee. Jesus was the baby king. The wise men had followed his star. They knelt down and gave to him their gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. His mother thanked them, and the baby king smiled. The wise men said goodbye to baby Jesus and Mary and Joseph. They got on their camels and rode home. They were so glad God had sent a star to show the way to the baby king. The camels went on and on back to their homes of the wise men. And for this story, especially about King Herod, it didn't mention it in here, but in the Bible, in the Gospels, it does, about how he tried to trick the wise men to tell him where the baby was, because he put out a creed where all of, like, Jesus was a tower at this time, so where all the boys will be killed, because he didn't want any king to take over. But he underestimated God. He didn't know the God that we serve. And he didn't know that God's hand was in and throughout not just Jesus' life, but Mary and Joseph's. And he took the whole family and took them to a new place. And the same happened for the wise men. He gave them a dream and they knew not to go back to the king. And for this story, also, it's important to note that at times we can be those different ends or those different places where Jesus is asking, "Hey, do you have room? Do you have room for me in your heart, in your life?" And when we feel ourselves, we feel our lives with so many things, with so many distractions away from what we should be focusing on, we can start to go backwards. We can start to forget the magnitude of what Jesus is doing, the magnitude of what the Word of God should be doing in our lives, should be invoking. And when that happens, we become frustrated at times, right? I know I do. And I'll say to myself, like, what is going on wrong? I can't do anything. I start to put myself down, but then I think it's like, if I just trust in God a little bit, he can help me move up this mountain. So why am I doing it in my own strength? Why am I, you know, being so concerned with the problems I'm facing when I can just simply give it over to God? And everything won't be peachy, but God has a straight line. In our line, if we're not following God, it winds and turns. Sometimes we're just stuck in the cul-de-sac because we don't know where to go, and we're just stuck in the cul-de-sac. So this Christmas, I know it's a different type of Christmas Eve service, but it's important for us to, change it up, to put new insights into the story, and how with the king, how he was born in a manger. He was born in a manger, a place where animals live, where animals, they eat, they use the restroom, all of that. He was born there. And in a sense, where he was born, like for me, I imagine my sin. He was resting. He was born in a place where my sin should be dwelling, right? And when he entered that low place, he established his kingdom already. He established to the world, like, no, I'm gonna enter my way, because all of you guys, even the high up, have sin-filled lives. You might not look dirty on the outside, but you're dirty on the inside. And with him doing that, he broke through so many doors. And that only foreshadowed what was going to come later, when he was establishing his kingdom, when he was 30, for those years, when he became 33 and he started his ministry. So I just wanted to leave that with you guys for this Christmas Eve, and I hope you guys have a great Christmas. And next week I have a sermon already made, so I'm gonna do like New Year